Welcome to another episode of LearnBiz, the podcast. I'm Lisa K. Crawford, one half of LearnBiz, with my lovely co-host Sandy B. How are ya?
I'm doing good, Lisa. How are you tonight?
Oh, I'm doing really good, and I'm so happy that we are joined by another famous attorney, Attorney Kristen Goss. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Sandy. So nice to see you, ladies. Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
for
me.
Yes, thank you for being here. So, Kristen, to kick things off this evening, we want to know about your entrepreneurial path. What led you to the path of being an attorney? And then we definitely want you to share with us more about the collaborative law approach. You'll have to explain all of that to us and how that works. But start us off with your entrepreneurial path in law.
Sure, absolutely. I believe that I developed a love and a passion for helping families at a very early age. My father was a pastor and my mother was a social worker, so I observed them as a child counseling families. I wanted to take that a step further and know the law. I love the law and writing and public speaking. So I wanted to go into law, and I'm like, oh, perfect fit, family law. And so that's really how I ended up getting into the legal industry. As far as entrepreneurship, I did not at the time see myself going out on my own. I wanted to take the traditional route, work for someone, gain some experience, and then, I really didn't know where else I was going to go after that. Just go up through the ranks, become partner. But I had my second child in 2015, and there were some complications with that, and had to really take some time to be there hands on and go to the PT and OT appointments very often. And so I needed something that allowed for flexibility. And that was when I decided, okay, let me go out on my own. I did take on some contract work in the meantime, until I built up my practice, but eventually branched out. And I've been on my own since June of 2016. And the name of my firm is KWG Family Legal and Mediation Services.
You go, Kristen. That is awesome. Since 2016, you've been out here treading these waters and successfully so. You've been able to navigate your business. And again, we're going to hear all about that. So since 2016, what was it scary for you? And what did you do to try to obtain clients?
Absolutely. So anyone who knows me, I'm Miss Planaholic. I'm very, very cautious, and it could be a hindrance to a certain extent because as an entrepreneurship, you do have to have the ability to be flexible and take on some risks. With that said, what I did for the first 2 years or so after branching out on my own is taking on contract work, working for other attorneys or law firms, being able to have some consistent, steady income stream while I built up my practice. I did a lot of networking, such as BNI, Prime Time, and also other bar association events that I could go to put myself out there and let people know what I do. And that was how I was able to gain a lot of clients. It's a lot of word of mouth and networking with attorneys such as yourselves, you lovely ladies, who we refer back and forth to each other. And,
Right.
we have our specialties and our areas of interest and passion that we focus on. And so something that I don't do, I would refer to you all and vice versa.
I love it. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Sandy. I'm sure she has a few questions for you.
Well, I know that Kristen is a mom. She's a wife. She is an entrepreneur, as we've heard. She's very involved in the community. She's a woman of faith. I want you to tell folks how you balance it all. How do you balance the lifestyle? Because as your friend, I see you. I see the things that you go through on a day to day basis. And I say to you all the time, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm tired just hearing the things that you're talking about, and I don't have any kids or a husband or all of these other things going on. So how do you kind of juggle it all? Because I know that there's no balance technically. It's a juggling act. How do you do it?
Absolutely. So it's definitely not perfect, nowhere near perfect. And last week, for example, I received a call from my husband saying, "Where are you?" Because summer school had started, summer camp had started, and my poor middle child had been left at school. So I had to rush over and meet my husband at home for that. So, it's definitely not perfect. It has its humps. But what I find to be extremely essential is setting boundaries. That's huge and key for me, being clear and concise and having a time frame and a schedule that I put myself on. And I work within those parameters. I set out my calendar. Okay, the kids have this at this time. They have this activity or a summer camp. And so I try my best to put everything in my calendar. And that's what I live by. Look at my calendar, what's on my calendar, but also setting boundaries because I would not be able to do anything at all without having some boundaries.
Wow. Yeah, that is I know that for fact. Kristen will be like, it's after hours. Now, I want to ask you one more question before I turn it back to Lisa. You're an entrepreneur, your husband's an entrepreneur. How do you all balance, and I'm not getting into personal family relations, but how do you all balance your relationship versus your business interests? Because you both are trying to run a business and run a family. But then what about Kristen and her husband time? Like, how do you make time for those things? And what types of activities do you guys do to kind of keep yourselves connected with each other, separate from, the family structure?
It's very hard because, as you know, he's a plumber and he does a lot of service jobs. And so then he gets a call. It could be, whatever time and he goes. But I think that for both of us, we have a certain day that we designate as family time, which would be Sundays for us. And so we don't do any work on those days at all. We would have time, of course, to spend with the kids, but also we have a little time for ourselves that we set aside. Also, those special events and occasions, such as our anniversary or our birthdays, we will be very aware to make sure that we set time for ourselves when we, for those special occasions. So it's far in between, like it hardly ever happens, but I would say, a few times out of the year, we have time that we set aside just for he and I.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Kristen. So, Lisa, I know you got a whole bunch of things you want to get off on the thought here.
Well, I definitely am thinking about this whole body of law called family law. And I have met some attorneys that are the equivalent of beasts in this area of law.
Yes.
And I'm thinking, like, how do you stay a nice gal like Kristen in family law and just sound so nice? Because, I think this area of law brings out the beast in a person and an attorney. And I want to know about what type of trials and tribulations you've had practicing family law, and then why you decided to pivot into a new kind of practice in the area of family law called, I think, family collaborative law.
Yes. Yeah, so absolutely. Family law, I like to equate to the feelings and emotions of law. And it has been challenging in the courtroom setting and litigating family cases because oftentimes I find the attorneys being, great advocates, but taking things a little bit too personally and not separating work from, their personal lives. And that can be challenging with family law. But for me, and I love our judges, and I definitely believe that there is a place for judges. But my personal belief is that family law does not it has no business in the courtroom. And I say that because it's different from other areas of law. We are, as I said, dealing with people's emotions and their feelings and their lives and interests.
Yes. Right.
So it's
and their children.
Where their children, yes. And what better way to really have a complete resolution than to have the family sit down, whether it's with their attorneys or other professionals, and really be able to address the legal interests to be able to move forward in a positive direction and have a full, holistic, complete resolution. And that's, to me, what collaborative law is all about. And so that's why I love collaborative law for families. I can see the difference between a family in litigation versus a family who goes through the collaborative law process. It's like night and day. And
very, very interesting.
At the end of the day, who benefits from it is the family.
Right, because you know what? I think one of the professions that, or areas of practice that really gave lawyers a bad rap over the years has been family law, because of the way the billable hours flow in this practice. I mean, I just don't know that families can really afford attorneys for real, if you really are practicing correctly in litigation. It's hard and expensive.
Yes.
Can you talk about that and how the collaborative, if at all, makes it a little bit better as far as expensive, if at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So in order to qualify for a collaborative law case or to go through the collaborative law process, each individual has to have an attorney. So the mom or the dad, mom, dad, or husband and wife, each of them has their own attorney. And we enter into a participation agreement. And in that agreement, it outlines the do's and the don'ts. We're going to respect each other. Transparency is key, being open and honest about your finances and what's going on, and not just your finances, but how you're feeling, what transpired as far as in the past a little bit, but it's more so to move forward so we can understand and have a holistic outlook on what needs to be addressed. And then there's a disqualification provision. And I equate that disqualification provision to holding everyone accountable. Sometimes it scares people because it basically says if for whatever reason the process breaks down and it has to be terminated, then the individuals will have to fire their attorneys and then they would have to litigate in court. And I look at it as an accountability provision because if you're committed to the process, it's going to work. Because if you look at it in litigation, people change attorneys all the time. They can fire an attorney because they don't believe that the attorney is advocating for them, or it's just going on and on and on, and they don't have the funds anymore. So they have to fire an attorney and maybe hire another attorney that's a little less, whatever the case may be. So it can happen in a litigation case, and it actually does all the time. I see that. But with the collaborative law process, 92 or over 92% of the cases end in full resolution. And when I say full resolution, that means from A to Z. So even those that might have a partial resolution, there's still a resolution there, but full resolution over 92%. And
those odds are awesome.
Is much, much more. And then you talk about billable hours. For me personally, when I take on a collaborative case, there is the initial retainer, which is pretty much the same as my initial retainer if I'm going to litigate. But the difference is in the collaborative process, we're on a time frame. So for each meeting, there's an agenda set. And each meeting doesn't last longer than 2 hours for the whole team. And so everyone's held accountable. Everyone is, working within a certain time frame, and the case is resolved a lot quicker than a litigated case. On average, I've seen cases even that have some challenges that are resolved within 6 months, opposed to a litigated case that on average I've seen 2+ years that it continues to go on. So that in and of itself is a plus for anyone who needs a family attorney.
And is it true? One other question before I toss it back to Sandy: is it true that all of your personal documents and records? I mean, so you keep those things out of the courts, right? And all of those things are within the collaborative process. So it's better for privacy purposes. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. So there are exchanges if it's a divorce, for example, and assets and debts need to be discussed. You have your standard financial affidavit that would need to be filled out, and it shows the income of the parties and the assets and the debts they have. But like you said, Lisa, it is confidential. And once everything is resolved and we as the attorneys are ready to prepare the documents that are necessary to file, we can say, hey, yes, the financial affidavits are going to be filed, but they're going to be sealed. So that's not exposed to anyone. Because as you know, even if you're not assigned to the case, you can look up a case online because things are public record, and you can see all the finances of people who are going through things in a traditional litigation setting. So that can be, closed off in the collaborative process. Also, there are other professionals.
That's great. No, that's really great.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. What were you continuing to say? I just want to say that part I really love, but keep going.
I was just going to mention that oftentimes there are other professionals that come on and really are the support to my role as representing and advocating for my clients. I went to law school. I know the law. I advocate for their legal interests. But if there are significant assets or debts, what better way than to reach out to a forensic accounting firm or a financial neutral, whether it's an accountant or a CFP, that is really skilled in going through the finances. Number one, their hourly rate is more than likely less than mine, and they're the expert in the finances, so they can go through all of the finances fairly quickly, opposed to my paralegal having to skim through to make sure we have everything, and then I verifying what the paralegal did and at my hourly rate, and plus the paralegal bills for her hourly rate. And then it takes a lot longer. So that's a plus in and of itself. Also, mental health professionals, such as your psychologists, your child specialists, your marriage and family counselors, that act as a neutral facilitator in the process. And they are really key, especially when there are child-related issues that need to be addressed. Because of how they're trained, they really calm the situation, and having a really skilled, neutral mental health professional helps the process significantly.
I love it. I love it because it's just so wraparound for the family. And so you may be paying for all those services, but like you said, on whole, is going to take a lot less time. And then there's a lot more put into that process to make it so that the outcome stays strong and, over time. When the lawyers go away, you want these agreements to hold up and it to be like tailor-made for family success. So great job on navigating to the collaborative process and family law, Kristen.
May I say one other thing that I would love to mention in regards to special needs? That's something that I really see collaborative law being beneficial for as well. Parents of special needs children. When you go to court, the judge's hands are tied when it comes to a parenting plan. And a child with autism, for example, they need consistency and structure. And if they're going through, or if their parents are going through a divorce, that's a trauma in and of itself.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to talk about a parenting plan, and more often than not, it's leaning more so towards a 50-50 or equal time sharing arrangement. But how is that child really going to deal with that or cope with that when they're used to one family unit, and now all of a sudden their whole life is turned upside down,
right,
and they have to spend half of the time with mom or half of the time with dad, that's traumatic for them. And I see a
Yes.
lot of issues when it comes to children with special needs. But with the collaborative process, yes, you have to abide by the law, but there's more flexibility. And like you said, Lisa, things are tailor-made to that family.
Yes.
So you don't have to go to court and not be heard, and the judge, have to issue an order based on what the law says, opposed to going through the collaborative process and really outlining a game plan, the participants feeling heard, and
Right.
we addressing the concerns that they have.
Gotcha.
I really do love that part. There was one other little quick question I was going to ask. I can't think of it, but I'll probably get back to it. But thank you so much. Oh, I know what it is. Just for anyone who might just be tuning in right now, can you define collaborative process just so people understand what that is as an alternative to fighting in court?
Absolutely. I define it as a holistic way of addressing the legal interests of those who are dealing with a divorce, or those that are dealing with modification, or those that are dealing with a paternity issue, whether it's establishing paternity or wanting to change, a current order, going through a parenting plan, etc.
Okay, a collaborative process, which means that the parties, even though they kind of fighting, they still working together to work it out.
Yes, that is the key. So a lot of times the opponents of the collaborative process believe that, they don't see the benefit, because they're like, if the parties agree on everything, what are you guys doing? Sitting around the table and singing Kumbaya? And that's not the case. It's actually, in my opinion, because I have experience with both litigation and collaborative, it's really hard. And I think more challenging going through the collaborative process, because you have to think outside the box. You have to be creative. And people are not seeing eye to eye. They still are disagreeing, which is why they need you as the legal attorney or the mental health professional or whomever to help them with their issues. They're not seeing eye to eye, but the difference is they're willing to talk, and they're willing to have the commitment to work it out regardless of if they are not seeing eye to eye.
Gets no better than that, Sandy, right?
That's no better than that for sure. So we only have a few minutes remaining. So I want to make sure that we touch on a couple of things from the attorney entrepreneur side, because you are running a business. You've gone through, I'm sure, a variety of experiences and trying to do the juggling act between family and work and just having time for yourself. What are some tips that you would give to someone who's just starting out and is saying to themselves, I'm married, I have kids, I want to start this business, but I have concerns. What are some tips that you can give them to maybe help smoothen out that initial process?
Never give up. Number one, if you have a gut feeling of wanting to do something and branching out on your own, don't take too long like I did. I probably had the initial thought of going out on my own at least a year prior to doing so. And I know things happen for a reason, and they're in their own timing, but don't allow fear to hinder you and to stop you from accomplishing your goals. I would also say, really sit down with someone who is trained in business and being an entrepreneur, a marketing person, because as you all know, you have businesses of your own as well. A lot of the things that I learned, and I am still learning as a business owner, I am learning after the fact, because we went to law school to learn the law, and we know that in and inside out, but how to be a business person, how to be an entrepreneur is something that I had to learn after branching out on my own. So if you have a mentor that is in addition to a legal mentor, and, for example, in my field, since I'm an attorney, I would go to a legal mentor, but I would also talk to someone who is skilled in marketing, business, maybe a business coach. Also watch those dollars though. because your first year of practice, you want to be wise in how you spend your money. So if someone is willing to donate some time, that is something that you should look for as well.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Great
Well,
tips.
we only have a couple moments, so what I want you to be able to do is tell people how to reach you. I know that your firm is KWG Family Legal and Mediation Services. How can people reach you? What's the best way?
Yes, absolutely. Not meditation, even though meditation is good. People say
Oh,
meditation
Lord.
sometimes.
Sometimes
When
people
they
be
see my
trying to
name.
write stuff.
But you could reach me at Kristen at kwglaw.net. Again, that's Kristen at kwglaw.net. You could also go onto my website, www.kwglaw.net. Check me out on Facebook, KWG Family Legal and Mediation Services. You can check me out on TikTok, KWG Law, Instagram, KWG Law, and Facebook, I believe I said.
Okay.
And so that outlines my services, and you can find out a little bit more about me.
Great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kristen. We truly appreciate you for coming on to LearnBiz, the podcast, guys. Kristen Goss, collaborative family law is her area of specialty. If you have questions, you want to know if this is something that would work for you and your situation, check out her website. You can get all of her information there. And look, Kristen is on TikTok. I'm telling you guys something.
Go ahead, Kristen.
I'm loving Kristen's TikTok videos. I watch her on TikTok, and I'm like, she's giving me motivation because I've been apprehensive about going to TikTok. But I'm going to work on it now that I've been seeing Kristen really maneuvering in there. And because I was kind of scared of TikTok. It's just like so many little things to look at. But I'm like, you know what? Kristen is taking the leap. And I love to say that Kristen doesn't really like technology in the way that many of us do. But she's doing great, and she's doing some great work and giving some really important tips and information on her social media. So guys, please take advantage of the opportunity, as you see it. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right. I hope you enjoy your day. Guys, this is another one from LearnBiz, the podcast. We brought you people from all different industries.
Yes.
We hope that you will subscribe to the channel and make sure that you click the notification bell so that you'll be notified when we have another episode up. I will leave Kristen's information in the description of this video. And don't forget that our Entrepreneur Mindset Summit is still up. You can watch 2 hours of jam-packed information that will help you grow and build your business. Lisa's going to tell you about a couple of things that are coming up before we close out.
Wait, before I do that, why don't you and Kristen talk about the fact that you guys are book authors? And I think you need to get this in here. We can't leave without talking about that.
So I know Kristen has a hard stop, so I can kind of talk about that briefly, but we do have a book project dropping very soon called Civility Wins, Find Your Peace While Taming the Beast. Kristen and I basically chronicle our experiences as young attorneys going through the system and how we maintained our civility and professionalism throughout the process. So,
right.
Yes.
I can't wait to read that.
Be on the lookout this summer for the launch.
Ooh,
Yes,
add that on my reading list. Woohoo. All right,
Thank you,
ladies. Well,
Kristen.
thank you. We got to have you
Thank
back
you,
so
ladies.
you guys can review the book here on the LearnBiz the podcast. We'd love that. We asked first.
Ooh, absolutely. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. So guys, we brought you another one. Definitely tune in and tap into the information that Kristen is providing, especially if you are married and, considering parting ways and you're not really sure, what avenue is best. I can attest that Kristen does some really great work, and she's very compassionate and focused on trying to find the best solutions. So definitely tune into that. Lisa, I know we have a couple of things coming up, and we have some guests coming up. Go ahead and let folks know.
Yes, we have Miss Brunner coming on Friday. She's from the YWCA, and she's going to be talking about, I believe, their entrepreneur project, some of the things they have going on, as well as we have Miss Kristen Kitchen. She is the owner of the Dunn's Josephine Hotel, a Black-owned hotel in the historic Overtown community of Florida, Overtown, Miami, Florida. So she will be on Friday as well. So two back-to-back guests within the 12 o'clock hour on Friday. And stay tuned because Sandy and I are going to be on Instagram more often, and we'll be sharing some of our highlights from our shows. So we'll just be all over the place. We just want you to know that we're out here. And if you guys have any specific show topics or ideas for Black entrepreneurs, definitely let us know that through the comments. Correct, Sandy?
Absolutely. Post in the comments, send us an email, DM us on Instagram. We definitely want your engagement and your commentary, and let us know if you have any ideas for guests that you'd love to see on our show, whether it be, a specific industry or a specific person. We'll definitely reach out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. We'll see you back here Friday.
Bye, guys.
See ya.